This is week 26, the redeeming light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. The book of Isaiah in the Bible, chapter 9, tells us, "The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined." What is this light of which so many scriptures speak? In Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramhansa Yogananda, we read of an early experience Master had with that light. "I was blessed about the age of 8 with a wonderful healing through the photograph of Lahiri Mahashaya. This experience gave intensification to my divine love. While at our family estate in Ikapur, Bengal, I was stricken with Asiatic cholera. My life was despaired of. The doctors could do nothing. At my bedside, Mother frantically motioned me to look at Lahiri Mahashaya's picture on the wall above my head. Bow to him mentally. She knew I was too feeble even to lift my hands in salutation. If you really show your devotion and inwardly kneel before him, your life will be spared." I gazed at his photograph and saw there a blinding light enveloping my body and the entire room. My nausea and other uncontrollable symptoms disappeared. I was well. At once, I felt strong enough to bend over and touch Mother's feet in appreciation of her immeasurable faith in the Guru. Mother pressed her head repeatedly against the little picture. "O omnipresent Master, I thank thee that thy light hath healed my son." I realized that she too had witnessed the luminous blaze through which I had instantly recovered from an usually fatal disease. "Where my light is," God once told a saint whom the divine light had healed, "no darkness can dwell." The divine light, pure, calm, liberating, is the only final cure for every kind of delusion, ill health, emotional grief, and spiritual ignorance. Seek it daily in the silence, in deep meditation. As the Bhagavad Gita says in the 5th chapter, "For whom that darkness of the soul is chased by light, splendid and clear shines manifest the truth, as if a sun of wisdom sprang to shed its beams of light." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om. Om.
Now we'll continue with a reading from Whispers from Eternity. This week's reading is reading 156, Demand for the Rising of the Aurora of Intuition. Infinite Spirit, thy presence is hidden equally behind the warm rays of the sun and the cool light of the moon. Those lights, though welcome and wonderful, reveal only Mother Nature's splendor in matter. They do not reveal thee. To me, they are therefore darkness. Thy all-revealing, majestic and supreme light shines not on, but from within the center of everything, therefore creating no shadows. Shadows in this world reduce light itself to non-light. In theory, I have known this. Now, Lord, take all darkness away from me. Wherever I sit with eyes shut, enclosed in my own darkness, cause to blaze upon me in glory the aurora of intuition, that suffused in its light, I may gaze raptly on thee with worshiping eyes. So our reading today is the redeeming light. And we've heard a lot of people experiencing the light that has healed them, a light that has protected them, the light that has inspired them, the light that has come into their lives in one or other way to uplift them, to help them remember their wholeness, to assist them in difficult times. We also hear many anecdotes of the light of people who have transitioned, who've left their bodies and they go into the next realm. And there is that light that beckons them. For some people, sadly, that light is alien. They're not familiar with it, so they cower away from it. But those who have progressed or have had some sort of spiritual opening in their lives, they have done some sort of spiritual work, immediately follow that light. They go into that light, and that light is absolute bliss. How do we acquaint ourselves more with this light while we're here on earth? This is the light that creates, sustains, and destroys universes. And yet many of us are very unaware of it or have never experienced it. There is a story of Krishna when he was a little boy. He was very mischievous, and he was playing with his brother Balarama. And Krishna put some dirt into his mouth, and of course the brother, very concerned, went to Yashoda, the mother, to tell her that little Krishna was eating dirt. So the mother came to Krishna and asked him, if he had eaten some mud. And of course, Krishna says, no, mother, Balarama is lying, of course not. Anyway, she knew how mischievous her little boy was, so she asked him to open his mouth to see if there was any mud in there. And when he did, she found no mud. All she saw was the universe and the galaxies inside her son's mouth. His mischief behavior made that mother forget his status of divinity. And our mischievous behavior, our ongoing thoughts, our emotions, our issues, our problems, make us too forget our divine status. So how do we stay anchored in that divine status while we go about playing the game of being human? Because this is just a very short sojourn that we have on earth. How do we stay aware of our true quest, being awake all the time? How do we stay anchored in that knowledge that we are pure beings of light? Yogananda says that when we feel unsettled by circumstances in life, we should discard all thoughts of powerlessness, of upsetness, of unworthiness, of fear. Just banish them out of your consciousness, because there's nothing more powerful than the mind. And if we hold on to those thoughts, this is what we become. Whatever we hold in our minds, this is what we ultimately become. So it's good to ask ourselves, what are those thoughts and attitudes that we engage in that disconnect us from our inner power and impede us from experiencing that light? Those are the behaviors, those thoughts, those behaviors that cast a shadow in that light. And we're just inches, millimeters away from having that experience. The light is there, we're just not experiencing it. Once at Mount Washington, Dr. Lewis was with Yogananda, and they were experiencing many financial difficulties at the time. I think it was the beginning of Mount Washington, and they were just starting the teachings. And there was a big problem that they needed to solve soon. And Dr. Lewis looked at Yogananda and said, why don't you use your power to overcome this little problem this time? And Yogananda looked at Dr. Lewis and said, Dr. Lewis, do you have the power to overcome this? And Dr. Lewis said, oh, no, 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 not I, but you do. And Yogananda said, what's the point of me having power if all of you don't? And that's what these teachings are about. The master came to share with us that power that we carry inside. And it's not a power that comes to us when we're not awake sufficiently, because if we had that power right now, how many of us would use that power like a magic wand to get rid of that issue and that problem and this situation and that person? Yeah, we'd make it really comfortable for ourselves. But have we changed? Not at all. And what's the point of that? We're spiritual seekers on a quest. We want to become self-realized. It's not going to happen by removing all of our problems. So to be anchored in the light, anchored in the teachings, we need to be single-minded. We have to anchor ourselves in our true nature. And remember that. That is our main objective in life. There is a story from the Mahabharata, which is an epic narrative of the Kurukshetra battle, in which the Kaurava and the Pandava princes went to war. And there is his disciple, he's Duryodhana, and he was feeling very vexed that his poor cousins, the Pandavas, had come into his kingdom looking like beggars, and they were going to be instructed in the art of archery together with him. So he felt so superior and above their status that he had an issue with that. He also had another issue, that his guru, Dronacharya, had a favorite student, and that was Arjuna. So he had two problems. He felt he was superior to his cousins, and he was jealous of Arjuna. And of course, the guru knew that. So he needed to teach his disciple a lesson. So he took all the princes out into the forest and asked the princes to meet him at 100 yards away from a tree that he had shown they had to go out and practice archery on. And out they went, and Dronacharya told the princes, in that tree is a bird, and you will take that bird down with one arrow. The princes looked around at each other. That's impossible. The tree is full of foliage and branches, and we can't even see anything. Plus, we're 100 feet away. So Dronacharya asked each prince to come up. And first, that person was to answer a few questions before he was to release the arrow. So he asked the first prince to come up, and Dronacharya asked questions. What do you see? I see the bird, sir. What else do you see? I see the leaves, the branches, the tree. I see you. I see my brothers. Put down your weapons. Step aside. Next, what do you see? And again, I see the bird. I see the trees. I see you. I see the sky. Put your weapon down. Next. Eventually, it was Duryodhana's turn to come up to aim his arrow at this bird. And the guru says, son, what do you see? I see the bird. What else do you see? I see the tree, the leaves. What else do you see? I see that the bird is wooden. Put your weapon down, son. You're not ready for this. Eventually, Arjuna came up. And Dronacharya asked Arjuna, what do you see? I see the bird. What else do you see? The head, the eye. What else do you see? Do you see it's wooden? No. Do you see the trees? No. Do you see the other princes? I see nothing. I just see the head and the eye. Fire. So Arjuna was the only one able to succeed in this task. And Dronacharya turned to the princes and said, this is the way to succeed at anything, to keep the main goal in mind, single-minded. Keep that main goal in your mind and don't waver. What is our main goal? Our spiritual quest. We're all interested in spirit, but we also have a lot of interests in our external life, our worldly life. And when we do that, we're traveling on two tracks. This is my external life, and I also come to church on Sundays and I meditate here and there, but we're not going to be successful in either life, not the spiritual life and not your external life. Because a life of success, you have to be single-minded. You give your interior life all your attention. That's how we live life from the inside out. That's how we live an extraordinary life. Not just an ordinary life, an extraordinary life. That's how Swami Kriyananda lived. He gave all his attention just to what he was doing in the moment. He lived in that single-minded state. When he was writing books, he couldn't imagine that he would compose music. And when he was composing music, he could never think that he could ever write a book. And he was in that presence, moment to moment. And that's where it's at. When we are whole, when we are complete, we feel that connection. We feel that the light. Now, it's easy to say, yes, we have to be always aware, but we have to, because if we're not aware, distraction is just waiting on the sidelines to come in and take over and to create that distress, so you will not be on track and in that space where you want to be effective and powerful and complete. There's another reading today that we have when we hear young Mukunda being affected by Asiatic cholera, and he was very sick, and he was on his deathbed. The doctors had despaired of his life, and the mother was desperate. So the mother asked young Mukunda to look at the picture on the wall, her guru's picture, Lahiri Mahashaya's picture. This mother had taken her child when he was an infant to present him to her guru, Lahiri Mahashaya, for a blessing. And at that time, Lahiri Mahashaya told Yogananda's mother, your little boy is going to be a spiritual motor, bringing many people to God. So he had received that blessing from her guru way back then. And now again, she came to her guru to ask for a healing for her child. So she told young Mukunda to bow mentally to the picture because he was too weak. He was too feeble to do anything. He couldn't even move. So from within, he bowed at the picture of Lahiri Mahashaya. And in that moment, a radiant light appeared. It enveloped his body, it enveloped the whole room, and instantaneously, he was healed. He had no ailments, no fever, no nausea. It was all gone. And even though this is a powerful example of what the light can do, what is even more powerful is the deep faith that the mother had in her guru. That mother offered herself a self-offering with undivided attention. She came to her guru to ask for that boon for her child. And that's how we need to come to our spiritual life, 100%. In the Festival of Life, in the Festival of Light that we read after, during Sunday service, we will say, we see that we come to God with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul, and with all our strength. This is how we find that state of single-mindedness. So the dedication, the devotion, and the self-offering is there at all times. And the divine takes an interest when we take an interest. And that level of interest has many different hues. There is slight curiosity, a little interest, and then all those hues in between to total devotion, total offering to the work. And it's there in that self-offering that we feel the blessings that follow. How much time do we devote ourselves to thinking of God, holding God in our heart, sitting with God, meditating with God, carrying him in the silence of the heart to all places? This is the way of waking up. Dr. Lewis was a young Bostonian dentist, and he was obsessed. I wouldn't say obsessed, but he really wanted to know what one of the phrases in the Bible, one of the statements in the Bible said, that if thy eye be single, thy whole body will be filled with light. And he had gone to many ministers and many priests and pastors and pundits trying to get an answer to this, to no avail. Nobody could give him a satisfying answer. So he came to encounter Yogananda on Christmas Eve, and he asked Yogananda, "Can you explain this to me?" And Yogananda said, "I think I can." "Really? If thine eye be single, thy whole body will be filled with light?" "I think I can." So he said, "Please have a seat in front of me." He sat him down on a tiger skin. Dr. Lewis, an adult, I don't think he had ever gotten down on the floor since he was an adult, Boston, 1920s, but he made his way down, sat in front of Yogananda. Yogananda brought his forehead to Dr. Lewis's forehead. And there Dr. Lewis experienced a radiant light and a supernal bliss. And he entered into a deep meditation. He understood. This is what the light does for us. When we move closer to it, when we do our work, we understand, we know. We don't need to read so much scripture and read books and literature to help us understand. We know, we've been there. That light abides in our consciousness, in all of our consciousness. It's not out there. It's right within you. And this light will shine ever more brightly when we begin to let go of all those extraneous things we carry around. Our opinions, our likes. This situation should look this way. That situation should end that way. This person should behave like this. I need to have it my way. And this is the biggest shadow that is cast over that light. Having things go your way. We will live in the shadow, and the shadow will follow us to the end of our lives, but we had it our way. How's that helping us? How's that working for us? Yogananda said we have no physical existence except in the universal sense. When Krishna's mother looked into his mouth and she saw the universe and the galaxies, that's the way the divine, when he looks upon us, that's what he sees. The universe and the galaxies in us. We were created for that, a replica of the divine. That is our status. So how much light and space are you willing to host in your life? How much are you willing to open, to grow, and to put down all those little burdens of having things turn out your way? This light is your friend. It's your vehicle. It's the essence of your being. This light is conscious. And when this light shines, no darkness can dwell. Where this light shines, there is only perfection. And as it states, the light is the best cure for every kind of delusion, ill health, emotional distress, and ignorance. The light will heal you. And that's why it's so important to go into meditation daily. We need to take a dip in the crystalline waters of peace and silence. abide in the depths of meditation every day in order to be healed and cleansed and ennobled and nourished and restored and ultimately transformed by thy light. Now we'll have our offertory.